A lot of myths go this way. There's a real person, and people talk about the things that they did so much, and time passes, memory isn't...
And you have so many other stories that you hear that are actually just made up, that it kind of just blends in.
And so eventually you have to say, well, where did that guy come from? And perhaps you even make up a new origin story for them. Things get twisted by years of being passed down from person to person. And so the only people who would remember for sure are the people who are, like, studying these dusty old books. And not many people are, because the only person I ever see reading a book in the show is Twilight.
Well, Rainbow Dash, but those are, like, modern novels.
She made her read those books.
Yeah,
she was like, well, no, reading's for nerds.
They're all specified that they do read, but they're probably modern novels. Most people don't go read old history textbooks for fun.
This is what I'm talking about.
Excluding current company.
So I do think that also feeds into the sense of Luna and Celestia as being part of a mythology, is the way that they've developed in the popular consciousness.
What about the idea that they had to leave, like, candy to fend off Nightmare Moon for Nightmare Night, and wear, like, costumes to hide themselves?
This is perfect example of what mythology does. You know, you've got to, like, appease this thing. There's this understanding, probably Celestia mentioned this to people because she's an honest person usually, is that, you know, Luna went wrong because she felt like she was underloved.
Yeah. Oh!
And so, over time, people's conception of how to prevent this from ever happening again
was to
appease her. Appease her pride. Be like, oh, you're totally important, we're totally afraid of you, please don't come back.
And the irony there is that's not what she wanted at all.
Deep irony. She got respect, but it's fear and not love.
Mm-hmm.
So, it kind of reminds me also, too, of the way you would, like, leave milk out for the fairies, because fairies were scary. And
fairies were assholes.
And they could kill your children and give you chronic pain.
And a whole lot of other bigger issues.
So you left out milk for the fairies, please don't hurt me.
And if you had a lot of issues, you had to leave your doors open so they could come and leave as they pleased.
Yeah. You know, all these things, people bend over backwards to take care of things they don't understand. So, I can easily see it coming from that source.
Then there's the other side of it, which is, we've lampshaded it a little bit and brought it up a little bit, but Celestia, during all of this.
Poor, lonely Celestia.
After Luna gets banished, Celestia has to deal with pretty much everything. She has to raise the sun and the moon, she has to manage her entire kingdom, and you gotta wonder, after that, I don't think anyone dreamwalked.
No.
So,
people back to natural square one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think she's capable of dreamwalking.
It's probably not within her magic repertoire, and even if it was, she couldn't handle that. That would require her never sleeping.
And she still has to run the day-to-day affairs of the kingdom, you know, politics. There are other kingdoms out there, I'm fairly certain. There may not be other pony kingdoms, but there are other kingdoms.
Saddle Arabia? The Griffin Kingdom?
Oh, Saddle Arabia, I forgot about them. So yeah, that's diplomacy. She's gotta worry about that stuff.
And she hosts things all the time. She has to show up at, like,
parties,
all the events and everything, and if you don't, then it's chaos. Celestia's relied on for way too much. And on top of all of this, she literally has no one that she can talk to. If you watch almost any episode with Celestia in it, you see that people are kind of afraid of her.
Everybody bows. Her student bows.
Her student is like, can't even talk to her like a normal person. And everyone else, like, in the episode where she, with the Phoenix, I forgot what it's called, with Philomena, where she's at the cakes, they don't say anything to her. All they do is, as soon as she eats something, they bring her more, and they bring her tea, and they basically just leave because they assume that she doesn't want to be around them. And you gotta imagine, if everyone treats you like that, you have no one.
You're so lonely. She's gotta be so lonely.
And then Twilight shows up, and, you know, finally she has someone that she can kind of talk to, but Twilight's so reverent.
All the time, especially in the early episodes, which just especially hurts me, because she's been around Celestia for years now.
Her own personal student, Celestia, has made it a point to let her know that she is, like, important and special.
Like family.
And family. And Twilight still afraid. But you gotta imagine how much that hurts Celestia, and she knows that Twilight has these anxieties, and fussing at her about them isn't gonna help anything, and showing weakness is certainly the last thing you want to do. And yet...
And she's been alive for so long. I know people probably talk about this a lot in fan fiction, is how she outlives everybody around her, because that's a big thing to talk about in fan fiction, I know, because I've been in lots of fandoms. But, you know,
you see everyone die.
And no one wants to talk to you, and especially early on, I think probably she had better repertoire with people, because they sort of remembered that she'd been born.
Yeah, she was, and things were a little, less structured. It seems like the bureaucracy has grown
around her.
But now it's just, there's like nothing there. And your only sister, the only one who could really connect with you, the only one who knows where you came from, the one who treated you like a person, the person you loved the most.
She knows that you were, like, born and you were a child at one point.
And probably remembers your child. Not to mention, the whole older sister complex usually involves having to protect the younger sibling.
That is how it
you feel responsible for them, and then having to banish your own sister like that, the one that you were supposed to protect.
Okay, we've talked about this a lot, so let's just suffice to say that it is terribly tragic, and I'd actually like to see that touched on a little bit in the series.
Yeah, the fact that they brought it up in Princess Twilight Sparkle, I, like, shouted at the screen, yes.
But Celestia...
Because I was so happy about it.
Celestia is my favorite character, just because...
Ditto.
And it's weird, because you pick, like, minor characters to be your favorite characters, because there's, like, so much going on with her. She's got, like, her own life. She's gotta be tired all the time from, like, having to run the kingdom, do both the duties. You know, she probably, like, spends a lot of time sleeping. She's just worn out.
Man, you gotta imagine, she probably doesn't get enough sleep.
Well,
like, ever.
Well, before her sister came back.
Before her sister came back. No, she probably didn't get much sleep then either, because she had to do so much. She probably was at least 3 hours short of sleep, like, almost every single night.
Which brings me to something I'd like to see in the series. I would like to see, there's a trope called the below deck episode, which is where you have, like, the people who work for the heroes, like, you know, the janitors and the cooks and stuff, get
their perspective.
This would be like an above deck episode, because now you get to see the person who's technically above you, what their average day looks like.
Yeah, we were talking about this, that we really want to see a day in the life episode for Celestia.
It would be like, almost like, if you've ever seen Supernatural, there's an episode called A Weekend at Bobby's.
Yeah.
It would be something like that, her dealing with the little problems, her having her own plot.
You get so much character development, you get to see all these things, but it would be so, like, common and normal because it's an episode about her that you'd really get this, like, good perspective.
It could even be going on at the same time as another episode, so you would see the main characters flitter in and out on their own quests.
Yeah! They did that with, Games Ponies Play. There was the one where Spike had to babysit the animals, and then there was the ones where they had to take care of the stuff for the Crystal Kingdom. And you see, when you watch both episodes, you can see the things happening in one that affect the other. It could be like one of those, because that was awesome, except that the episodes were both really shitty.
But the concept was good.
The concept is great.
And I think I'd love to see something, just Celestia, you know, being annoyed at things. Celestia being tired. Celestia, like, having to put effort into things. Dealing with stuff that, like, her almighty magical powers can't actually fix for her.
And you gotta imagine that even though she knows all these things and she's had so much experience in the world, she still has been kind of sheltered, like any person whose royalty would be. So she probably doesn't know how to work a stove. She probably doesn't know how to do a lot of things.
Or at least she hasn't had to do them since before she became queen.
So a lot of her ideas must be kind of antiquated.
Yeah, and of course there's, like, some famous story about Luna having to work the microwave or something.
Oh my god.
It's not quite to that level, because I don't think they actually have microwaves.
They do not.
It's not quite to that level, but, like, you know, having to see her try to do things for herself that other people insist on doing for her, like, you know, she'd love to light her own fires, but if she lights her own fires, people have a panic attack.
They get worried that they've offended her.
They're like, oh no, I'm so sorry, we'll take care of it next time, and they, like, move the hearth to a different room so she can't find it. You know, that sort of thing.
For fear of her injuring herself or something.
Oh no, princess!
Like, you are a celestial being, I can handle this.
I would also like to see, and of course they'll never do this because it's way too cool and it would probably require like a different format than a 30-minute episode. I would like to see their the sort of a road trip to find the elements of harmony back when they were young. And
oh yeah, like a explication of the flashback, because it's clearly something was going on there. They had like the dirt marks on them and that kind of grungy.
And they have those packs on their back, like they've been out and like wandering the world, walking. And there's of course Discord is like the ruler of the time. It screams fantasy quest novel to me. You've got your evil overlord and your two rising heroes coming up from maybe from nothing. I don't know if they ruled before that.
And the question is that Discord clearly wasn't paying too close of attention to them.
He was not worried.
So he didn't think they were a threat.
Yes, that's true, even though they were alicorns.
Yeah, they were alicorns, and also, he must have not been around for very long to not realize that they could pose a threat, that they were protagonists.
Or he came from somewhere else where he'd never heard of them. And maybe they weren't really that big at the time. Maybe they were like Twilight levels.
What if Discord's from Saddle Arabia?
Wouldn't that be interesting?
But, you know, that whole, like, that hybrid thing, the Sphinx Chimera type stuff is very Near Eastern, and Discord strikes me very much as a sort of Near Eastern type of god.
I totally can see that.
So what if he actually had his origin in Saddle Arabia, and after things had kind of changed there, or he'd been like banished from there, he got knocked over into Equestria?
I like that idea. I could definitely run with that. So he doesn't think that they're a real threat. So you got like, I guess it's like, I'll share with you guys, and you're gonna hate me. I've never seen the early Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
Because nobody I know owns a copy, so I've never had a chance. But, like, my understanding is that you've got this little, like, moisture farm worker who, like, goes on to take down the Darth Vader and the whatever Emperor and all that stuff. So I'd like to see something like that with Saluna and Saluna?
Saluna!
Yeah, with Luna and Celestia, where they, like, come up from their little moisture farm and they, like, track down the elements of harmony and restore order.
And you gotta imagine that they probably, if we were to go with that, I mean, it was originally specified by Lauren Faust that they were supposed to be born alicorns, but the modern show has indicated that that is not the case. We don't know. It's very confusing. But if they were to come up like that and they were not born alicorns, what if they were like working on their farm, you know, whatever, they were just normal
on their moisture farm,
and they had these things that they could do, and you know, the unicorns would raise the sun and the moon and whatever, and then they realized that they were really good at it, and they became the first alicorns, and everyone was just frankly kind of confused about why they suddenly had wings.
And like they had to go visit the Pegasi, like make a quest to the Pegasi to be taught how to actually fly properly, know more about their culture.
Yeah, and then the people that they, you know, their parents or whoever they lived with, whoever they worked with, kind of just, you know, ignored it. Like, they didn't grasp the level that alicornship meant.
Oh, honey!
It was just, you know, this strange thing. Suddenly our daughters have wings now. Get back to the farm. We need your help.
And they're not, like, appreciated. I think that there's a lot of potential for stuff like this. I'd like to see almost like an Avatar thing where you have to travel to each of the 3 nations to, like, learn about what makes these people really good at the thing that they do. Like, they probably actually wouldn't come from a moisture farm, technically, because that farms is, like, what earth ponies do. Mm-hmm. So maybe they'd have to, like, go live on a moisture farm for, I don't know. I'm really into this moisture farm thing.
But, the thing is that it would have to be after Hearthswarm Eve, so they wouldn't have to travel too far.
Yeah. But, I mean, you would have to go live with those people to learn. You'd at least have to go live with the Pegasi.
Well, yeah, they all lived in the same area, but you would have to have the issue of getting up to the cloud village that the Pegasi lived
in. I love the idea that even after Hearthswarming Eve, they were kind of segregated. Like,
well, they would be a little bit.
Like, you know, the unicorns mostly keep to themselves, and they're, you know, because canon lot is mostly unicorns.
Yeah, and that's where we assume that Equestria was founded.
Yeah, so if you kind of treat it like after Heartswarming Eve, they're all cooperating, and they have, like, goodwill generally, but they still don't maybe quite understand each other.
Mhm.
And so the princess is traveling between these three sub-nations, ethnic groups, like, unite them by showing people how all three can be in the same individual, and how, like,
they become like a symbol of the unification, and that's why the flag changes.
Exactly! And that is why they become the rulers, is because everybody's, like, looking to them. Not only are they the heroes who defeated the bad guys, but they've, like, inspired them.
Then they would have to prove themselves, you know, because they started off as unicorns, presumably, and so they have the magic, and they could raise the sun and moon, and that's how they prove themselves magic-wise. But then you have to prove yourself as a flyer and someone who understands, because Pegasi seem to have a very strong nationalism to them.
Yes, they do.
Like, more so than any of the other groups.
It comes
so
from
they'd
being
have
warlike.
they'd have to prove themselves as, you know, understanding the culture and being inclusive as part of that and being good flyers. And then you'd have to consider, you know, earth ponies. They're strong. They're honest. You'd have to prove yourself as a good character.
Because you'd have to be on the ground during the period where you were, like, doing the quest.
Yeah. So you'd have to prove yourself as, like, a good person. You'd have to show your character. And then also, perhaps, they would have to live a year on a farm.
Or something.
Because that's the other thing is that the earth ponies have been described is that they have the green thumb.
Yes.
Green hoof.
They make things work.
Yeah, so you'd have to show that your ingenuity and your ability to survive in these harsh and difficult circumstances which the earth ponies live in without being finicky and being a, you know, one of them darn unicorns.
So I think that, like, you know, that, if you went through all of this stuff, then them finding the Tree of Harmony as it was in the flashback wouldn't be an anticlimax. Like, it's kind of boring and not boring. It's kind of low-key and anticlimactic in the flashback, because it's just one facet of the whole episode. But if you were trying to build it into a plot, you would maybe, like, you would have trials before they could get to the tree.
What if you had the episode where they had to gain the respect of all three peoples, and as they were trying to finish with that, and they finally were gaining the respect of all three of the peoples, Discord showed up and just fucked up everything, and they had to go on this trial to protect the people because the people had relied on them.
Oh, that's interesting, because I was kind of imagining that there, with the three nations, would be during the period of Discord.
That wouldn't work because it was such a state of chaos. First of all, they wouldn't be able to grow anything. Second of all, the clouds were extremely erratic, so they wouldn't be able to survive very well in them. It is not a conducive environment to gaining people's trust or learning.
I do think it's possible, because, like, if they were going to each of these people and they, like, help them get through it, help them fix it up, it's possible. I mean, yours is definitely, like, more natural, but I do think that mine is doable.
I could see either. Can we just write the show?
I would like to write for the show. I would love to do that. I would not like to deal with the bureaucracy and the studio and the company, but I would love to write an episode for them. I would love to write tons of episodes for them about Celestia and Rarity.
I think this is, literally, if we took over the show, it would be nothing but Celestia road trips and Rarity.
That's all there would be. Goodbye, every other character. So long, Pinkie Pie.
No
Goodbye.
more Main Six.
Rainbow Dash, we don't even like you.
See you later.
Oh. Goodbye, everyone.
Hello, friends. I am goodbye.
We have to rename the whole show the Celestial Rarity Power Hour.
Oh God!
Every episode, one of them and one of the other one.
That would be so great. I would watch that.
I would actually like to see, I can't even imagine what it would be like, some interaction between Celestia and Rarity for an extended period of time. Like, get a writer to write that, because I feel like it would bring out something interesting in both of them.
Yeah.
If they had to, like...
Because Celestia's got this very grounded, I do not need earthly things, and Rarity's got this, like, I need everything.
I need all the things.
So, and having them interact with each other, it would bring kind of this joy of living to Celestia, and this kind of higher state of being to Rarity.
You know, yeah, she would get, not that she isn't cultured, but, like, Rarity is someone who kind of, like, panics, and she feels her emotions on the ground level.
Mm-hmm.
When she's worried, she's really worried, and when she's anxious, and when she's passionate, she's really passionate. Whereas Celestia, like we already talked about, she spent so long alone, and she's been just working really hard. She's, like, sort of this meditated Zen master. She, like, was able to wield...
She's totally snarky and has this, like, awful sense of humor.
This is
yes.
true. Her 1 hour of Celestia making bad puns.
No, that would be Luna. I would imagine Celestia would be 1 hour of her putting people who act way too reverent at her in awkward situations where they have to get over it.
Yes, I like that. I would love to see that.
Which I think is why she liked Philomena so much, her Phoenix, because Philomena was an asshole.
I think she just wants to be around assholes more
Yeah,
often.
because Philomena probably treated her, normally.
I actually would like to see Discord and Celestia striking up an uneasy friendship, because he just doesn't even. He's like, yeah.
Like, he would probably just be, all over her, and she would be like, I don't trust you. And then he'd make some jokes, and she'd be like,
That's not funny. I'm not laughing. What are you talking about?
She'd have to, leave the room.
She'd have to leave the room and laugh in the bathroom.
Hear some things just get, knocked over.
Do they have bathrooms?
I think so. They have, rooms for baths.
Okay. I guess this is...
And assuming they have a level of hygiene like humans do, they probably wouldn't feel comfortable just going to the restroom in public.
Indoor plumbing for horses. Suddenly I'm trying to imagine how the mechanics would work.
We have gotten really off topic, so I think we should say that this is the end.
Have we covered all our bullet
We have
points?
covered everything that we wanted to cover. We'd be really interested to hear your opinions on the things that we have talked about.
Maybe not the bathrooms so much.
Ignore that part.
You will hear us later.
Bye!
Now
the hour has come at last. The soft and fading night has crossed the west horizon and has bidden us good night. And what a lovely night it is to walk a moonlit field, to see the softer shades that are by starlight now revealed. So why is it that now, when all is quiet and at rest, when candles glow and all the world is at its very best, the ponies of Equestria should lock themselves away to shun the night and wait instead for sister's sunny day? Am I so wrong to wish that they would see things like I do? And am I so wrong to wish that they might love me too? Why shouldn't they adore me? Is it not within my right? I'll not be overshadowed, mine is not the lesser light. I've waited long enough now for them all to come around. No, the sun may plead and threaten, the moon will stand her ground, and I will know the wonder of my dark and jeweled sky when all the world is wrapped in an eternal lullaby. So say good night at this, the final setting of the sun. Tomorrow dawns in darkness, the night time has begun.